Big Podcast.
From Nashville, Tennessee, it is Build a Big Podcast. I'm David Hooper. If you want to grow your podcast, get more people to your podcast, make money with your podcast, this is the podcast for you. You know, Nashville, podcast city, baby. We got a lot of great podcasting companies here. The top independent radio station in the country is here. One of the top NPR affiliates is here. Spotify is here. SiriusXM is here. iHeart is here. Apple does Apple Radio here. So there's a lot of talent. I know a lot about podcasting and radio. I would love to work with you on your podcast to help you do the things that I'm talking about. Growing your podcast, getting more people to your podcast, making a podcast that matters, and making a podcast that makes you money. You can find me at bigpodcast.com. On this episode, I'm going to talk about finding your voice. There's an article written by Josh Spector. Josh has this list. There are 8 things on it. I'm going to take them one at a time, one episode at a time. The one we're going to talk about on this episode, he calls it Write What You're Scared to Write. I'm going to change that. Podcast what you were scared to podcast. Share what you were scared to share. He was talking about creative people in general, book authors, speakers, anybody who's putting something out. But I think it is especially important for podcasters because you can't fake podcasting. Writers, and look, I'm one, so no knock to writers, but we have a lot of competition as writers now because of AI. A lot of written stuff now because we can crank it out so quickly with AI. It's starting to sound generic, but it's been that way. Don't be scared of that. There's a ton of generic content online, these so-called writers. They're 20-something, no offense to the 20-somethings, but haven't really lived, haven't really taken the time to find their voice. And it's not them necessarily, it's the clients who are hiring them. Hey, I need a generic article. Let's call it 10 coffee shops in Manhattan. And by the way, these coffee shops are paying us to do this article, so make it good. Is your podcast similar to one of those articles? 10 places to have coffee in Manhattan. Maybe so. You don't know because you're too close to it. Listeners will know. Will they tell you? I don't know. So let's look at these things. 8 ways for you to define your voice. Josh says this. He says, the sooner you stop trying to find your voice, the better. I would argue that you need to find your voice. That's exactly what I think that he's doing here, is showing you how to find your voice. I don't agree with all of these things, so we're going to go through them one by one. And he says this, the truth is you don't need to find your voice, you develop it. Okay, agree with that. But to me, those things are really the same thing. The voice isn't out there. The voice comes from living both in and out of the podcasting studio. I've told this story a bajillion times. I've got a degree in music. I was a musician, worked in the music business for a number of years as a marketing guy. That's what got me into radio, a show called Music Business Radio. And that is what got me into podcasting. That's how I've been doing it since 2005. I was in the right place with the right skill at the right time. Musicians that I went to school with, the best ones, they weren't only hanging out in the practice room, not unlike the studio that I'm in, a 5x8 closet. Go in there for hours. You go down a hall full of practice rooms. You hear different things, a French horn, a piano, a guitar, and a tick, tick, tick of the metronome. They weren't just in those little bitty rooms. They were out living, man. They had stories to tell. And those stories, through their music, through their onstage rant, through the way they showed up, that's what connected to an audience, not unlike a podcaster. You want to be a great podcaster? Go out and live a great life. Then you're going to have stories to tell. A related story, had a songwriter approach me one time. I had a music publishing company. This is when you own the copyright on a song. And I was looking for new writers to work with. I was going to try to get their songs cut by established artists. He sent me a song, and I love this concept. This song was about a writer who came to Nashville, a songwriter. That's a little inside. We call them writers, but when I say writer in this instance, I'm talking about songwriter. A songwriter came to Nashville. It just wasn't working out for him. And the advice the publisher gave him, which in this case, as a publisher myself, I would have agreed with, he said, you need a new song and an old guitar. What he was saying is, go live a little bit. That's the first thing I would say to you if you're trying to find your voice or develop your voice, if you want to use that word, in podcasting. So let's look at Josh's list. He says, write what you're scared to write. In this case, we'd say broadcast, podcast, what you were scared to broadcast and podcast. He says, the story we're nervous to tell, worried to expose, and afraid to express is the one you should write. You fear it because it reveals what makes you unique. But that's what makes it powerful. It makes it resonate. It makes it your voice. Sort of. I think there's an element of that, of you getting comfortable sharing yourself on the mic. I was talking to a host that I'm working with. He had surgery last week. He was off for a couple days. He's got a big audience. And I asked him, I said, are you going to announce this? I think it's important. What he was going in for was something that these listeners have to deal with. And it could be life-changing if they were dealing with it. So I said, why don't you announce this? There's some preventative things that they could do. They will benefit if you announce it. He goes, yeah, that's a great idea. You know, I'm so used to being old school. The network I was on before this one, they didn't want you to say anything. It was all business. If you had to go somewhere, whether it was vacation or you had a hospital thing, an emergency, a family thing, the show went on with a different host. They didn't even mention why you were gone. Not even after the fact. They definitely didn't do it beforehand. He described it as very old school. And I think a lot of people have the tendency to go for that very old school model, keeping it close to the vest, getting into that radio presenter zone. Hello, everybody out there in podcasting land, all my fans, my listeners. It's just, it's old school and it doesn't connect now. So I like what he's saying with this, the write what you're scared to write. In this case, broadcast what you're scared to broadcast. I get it. Share a little bit of yourself. I think that's what he's saying, but it doesn't mean you have to unload your childhood trauma or go deep into this stuff. I call it failure porn. I've actually seen guys do this for clicks. A prominent podcaster, and maybe he was trying to help people. I don't know what was in his heart, but he seemed to be doing well. I don't know why he had to get this off his chest on the podcast. Again, maybe it was helping him, but he had been abused as a child and wanted to talk about it. He had a buddy of his ask about it. I don't find that to be a bad thing, but it just didn't connect. It felt like one of these people on YouTube who they start out pretty tame and then they do something a little bit edgy. And then that works, get some more clicks. So then they ramp the edge up and that works and it gets some more clicks. And they keep getting edgier and edgier and edgier. You've heard me talk about this before. It's called star bangers. Do not look it up. It is not safe for work. But that's what that is. It's star bangers. It happens in modeling all the time. You see somebody who's comfortable with clothing. Then they're comfortable showing a little more skin. Then they're comfortable in a one-piece bathing suit. Then a two-piece bathing suit. Then they're comfortable topless. I get it. Comfort expands as you do more of whatever it is that you're doing. You're riding on 4 wheels, training wheels. Maybe you can do it on a tricycle. Maybe you can do it on a bicycle. Maybe you can do it on a unicycle. I get it. Comfort expands. But I think it's important for you to ask yourself, am I just doing this for clicks? Am I trying to pull at the heartstrings, manipulate people's emotions, get them to feel something for me? That's where that's a problem. And that's why I kind of think, podcast what you're scared to podcast. Maybe not. With that said, if you're old school like my hosting buddy and you're used to not letting people in, let people in. You will benefit. They will benefit. They will feel like they know you, and they do know you. Do you know them? A little bit different. It's a parasocial relationship. They will see themselves in your story. So do I agree with it? Yeah, kind of. If you listen to Dave Jackson's School of Podcasting, something he always says is, it depends. And I'm going to tell you the same thing. It depends. Why are you doing it? Who is your audience? Are they ready for it? I'm not saying that you shouldn't put something out there before your audience is ready. Sometimes you've got to put something up in the sky for them to be able to reach up to. Don't go down to their level. Hold it up high. Let them reach for it. You're the one setting the pace here for a lot of these guys. With that said, if it's so far up in the sky, they're like, whoa, man, that's way out in left field. That's not good either. If it's manipulative, not good either. That is number 1 from this list, how to find your voice or how to develop your voice. If you want more thoughts from me, you can find me at bigpodcast.com. I write about this stuff all the time. I'm podcasting about this stuff all the time. I've got a weekly newsletter, all of it at bigpodcast.com. You can find those things there. You can also find out how to subscribe to this podcast. Bigpodcast.com/subscribe. That's the direct link. You're going to find 3 buttons there. Click on one of them. That's all you need. One for iPhone, one for Android. One is an old school RSS feed. If you want to hear the other elements that we're jumping into on this series, go there right now before you forget. Bigpodcast.com/subscribe. Click on one of those 3 things, the iPhone button, the Android button, the RSS button. That'll make sure you never miss an episode. Go there now, bigpodcast.com/subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode of Build a Big Podcast.